Session. Hey! Hey!
Key points, Ibuki. Breathing is generally considered to be very good. You stop breathing long enough and you become very dead. But there's a difference between breathing in your normal everyday life and the breathing requirements for martial arts, and especially explosive physical demands. So you watch the Goju-Ryu practitioners and they have very, very specific breathing techniques in Sanshin Kata. And that involves the raising and the lowering of the diaphragm. So it's a very complex breathing system, and one you could probably injure yourself if you don't go to a very knowledgeable practitioner. But the idea of breathing from the Tanden, from the Hara, isn't so difficult to cope with. I was practicing this on holiday last week, walking down the road and trying to breathe so that your stomach inflates rather than your chest. Most people chest breathe, they only use the top half. So if you're only half filling your lungs, as soon as you get into stressful physical confrontation, you're going to run out of breath. But if you practice so that your stomach inflates first, then you're totally filling the lungs. And it's not so risky as the Goju-Ryu method, trying to raise and lower the diaphragm. So this is Ibuki breathing. And if you watch the Goju-Ryu guide, there's two forms. In, which is the soft style, and Yu, which is the hard style. The Goju-Ryu guys in Sanshin use the hard style. So for the purposes of Wado practice of say Shan, the In, the lesser, the softer breathing, but breathing from the Hara. And as well as from a martial point of view, most people sit and work on computers. So if you're only sitting and breathing from the top part of your lungs, you're going to have stale air in the bottom part. So by breathing from the middle, you're at least clearing the lungs. And people tell you that if you're feeling stressed or anxious, take deep breaths. So if you find yourself in a fighting situation and you can manage and control your breathing, you're less likely to become stressed out and panicked. So breathing, Ibuki, I think is very important. And I mentioned earlier that I'd never really understood Seishan, and now I might chuck a year at it. And I think Ibuki is going to be a big part of that, to manage and control breathing. A second key point is Same and Tame. We've been releasing the pairs work that we've done detailed videos on, the shorts. And I've noticed Sensei does Same during the shorts. I step forward to attack, he goes back, but then pushes back in again. And this comes under this heading of Same. Same is an unbreakable, unbendable mental mindset. I remember in a previous video I did a few years ago, Sensei wrote on a whiteboard the mental states, Mushin, Zanshin, Fudoshin. So Same includes Fudoshin, the unbreakable mind, the unbendable mind. But it's also, if somebody's being aggressive and I step back looking panic-stricken, that's probably going to fuel their fire. If I step back, but I look like I mean it, might make them think twice. If they're being aggressive and I step forward and I look like I mean it, that's Same. Unbreakable mind, and you're playing with their distance. If you step back, you're possibly giving them distance. You come forwards and you're playing with their mentality and their distancing. So that's Same. Tame is, it comes under Zanshin and Mushin. You are aware of what's going on without being panic-stricken, without being paranoid, and no mind. You're not sort of thinking, oh, what happens if he throws a right punch or a left kick, or you're just prepared, you're just ready. And you can maintain this state for as long as it takes to either diffuse the situation or have to get physical if you need to. So again, the beginning of the kata. If you can develop this mindset, this intensity, this focus with the ibuki, with the breathing, and go through this section, then that's going to be of great value to you in a fight. You know, you can bluff your way through katas by going fast, but if everything is meticulous and with intention, and you can control all of this and your breathing, that's going to be a big help to you. And the final one, again from the Goju guys, Shime. You don't necessarily have to hit each other for the sake of hitting each other. And I'll put a link to another video of a Kung Fu master, and he does the Kung Fu version of Sanshin. But they don't do the striking, but what they do is they check engagement. Are the legs engaged? Is the core engaged? Is the arm engaged? Is the hikite engaged? Or are you just standing there making a shape? There's a difference between the engagement and just standing there posing. We touched on it briefly during the Nohanshi video about internals. And again, we probably need to do a fuller video. But in this position, have you flattened your back? Have you engaged the adductors? If you engage the adductors, you engage the middle. Have you got 9 points of contact in your feet? Are you in the centre of your feet? Have you cross-connected your left elbow to your right knee and your left knee to your right arm? There are muscle chains in the body, and one of them is the spiral lines. So this is a way of checking, have I engaged the spiral lines? It's too much to go into details now. Like I said, we'll do another video. But this is just a way of, am I engaged? And then your training partners or your sensei can come round and just check, are the muscles engaged? Are you using these back muscles? You know, if there's no engagement there, then your shoulder's not engaged. But if you pull down, you can engage the whole lot. So people can check. You don't need to sort of hit and strike each other, but you can check that things are engaged. And that's Shime. So I think if you found yourself washed up on a desert island 10 years before you were rescued, if you did nothing but Naihanchi and Seishan for those 10 years and really had a look, really had a look at these katas, I think after 10 years you'd be okay. You'd be a lot better than when you started. And a final sort of word on the internal. Yes, it can mean, am I using internal muscles? But it can also, you can go into yourself. And what am I feeling when I'm doing this? I've just done this and I could feel I'm on my back foot. I'm not in the middle of my feet. I need to adjust slightly. So by doing this slowly, you can feel what's happening. You know, my shoulders hunching up, I'm losing my balance. Introspect. Don't just perform the kata, go into yourself and feel what's happening. And you'll probably find all sorts of mistakes that you hadn't noticed before because you never took the time to bother, to look, to go into yourself and try and find these things. So, Seishan, yeah, changed my opinion on it 100%. Not a lot to sort of offer on the Bunkai side of things. Sensei did an outstanding job and covered everything really well. So there's just a couple of variations on some of the techniques that were demonstrated earlier. And it's also, we've mentioned in katas, if there's a turn in the kata, you're either setting yourself up for the throw or you're trying to get behind your opponent. There's a third explanation, which is sort of a little bit tongue-in-cheek, is that Sensei didn't have a big enough dojo. And I think there's a little bit of that in this kata. Because as Sensei mentioned, if you 1, 2, 3, and then if you have to go 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 1, 2, it's 9 steps forward. So you're going to need a very big dojo. So they got paired up, practiced both sides, and you only had to make 3 steps. And then because you'd only got a short dojo, you've got to turn around. And I've always thought that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I think it actually applies to this one. 9 is too many, even though it's 3 lots of 3, and it's, you know, the kata's based around san. But as a useful variation for that, is we can make the turn in the kata an example of what we mean by getting behind your opponent. So as Sensei demonstrated, we can use this downward action, but now I can step behind him, and in the kata, one hand goes up, one hand comes down, one up, one down, down he goes. So that's a useful, an obvious means of getting behind your opponent. You've used the kata, you've turned, take him down. The final variation is we've mentioned a lot of grappling in some of the previous videos, and it's an alternative of this section. So if you imagine we've been grappling and it's all going wrong, if I can get to here, I can take this hand up and use this leg to unseat him. Yep. So this comes up, we unseat him, strike. So it's just a variation. Take him up, and as he comes behind you, strike. So not a lot to add really. A lot of the techniques are self-explanatory. But if you have a little look, like most of these things, you can find something a little bit different.
Okay, so this concludes our session on Seishan. I hope you've enjoyed it. Obviously, if not, then please leave comments. Some good, some bad, doesn't matter. We like to have a conversation with people. So yeah, come along and enjoy it. Conclusion for Seishan, then me personally, if you understand Naihanchi, then going into Yoko Seishan, Tate Seishan is obviously the next variation of the Naihanchi stance. Breathing, yes. Control of your body, whether that's internally or externally. It's something that we don't really practice a lot of in Wado Ryu. So to actually go away and look at these katas and experience these internal, this breathing, whether it's Naihanchi or Seishan, then yeah, it adds another complexity to your karate, no matter what style you do. And that's why I'm sure that these katas crop up in all different styles of karate. So it has been a big journey for us. I've had different instructors with Naihan Chan, Seishan, and each one has their nuances, their complexity, and then they make it look so easy. But it's such a difficult kata to control. So yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy Seishan. Maybe it's my size. Maybe I just blend into that kata a little bit more. Maybe I'm Okinawan size. But yeah, it's been good. Thank you again to Sensei Kerry and Simon coming along and experiencing with us. One just little comment. We do have a lot of viewers. So it would help if you subscribe. It doesn't cost you any money. I think 70% of our viewers that have not subscribed. So if you could do that, it's just a tick, subscribe, then that would be really helpful. So again, thank you very much for viewing this channel. Thank you. Wash.